Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's Newsstand, and this is going to be a little bit more of a discussion video. I received a very interesting back and forth in an email today, and I want to talk about it. And I've had my ear to the ground a little bit, and I want to talk about what I've heard within that also. So basically, what this email started off with is, can you tell me your experience with this culture war, right? Specifically anti-fandom types. And I've seen this person talk about me multiple times in a derogatory way, so I thought it was a setup, right? Initially, my mind goes that, you were just talking shit about me last week. Why would I tell you anything? Are you trying to get a gotcha? I may be a little cynical, but that's where my mind goes. But that wasn't the case. And I'm not going to give this person's name out for fear that they actually will get some sort of retaliation. But it went a little bit further. And I did, say, no, I do a little bit of research. Here's a couple things. And, let's move on from there. Later on in the day, I got a very interesting email about the situation as a whole. And this all obviously pertains around comic books, the culture war, movies, the woke anti-SJW, the anti-SJWs, the pro-woke, whatever is the fashion of the day, right? So this all is pertaining to that. And basically, it came down to, I kind of understand your frustration, right? And using a couple different quotes from this email, I'm just going to read it verbatim. For example, in my opinion, when watching in November, Eternals focused a lot on diversity rather than storytelling. But what would the solution to the issue be? Saying all white? That would be really stupid and problematic. And even if it was, the story did not improve. Rather, keep the diversity and improve upon the story. And this is generally what we talked about, how get woke, grow broke is kind of an illogical fallacy. It's not really the issue in most of the circumstances. A lot of the time, it is bad storytelling. It is really bad attempts at diversity with no talent behind it to actually back it. And that is really, I haven't seen Eternals yet, so I can't speak for that movie in particular, but I did see a bunch of clips of, the cast being like, we're saving lives. What, honey? No, you're not a doctor. You're not even a nurse. No, you may be doing something good, and that's great to feel great about. But don't come out here and act like you are a doctor. And I thought it was pretty foolish, but I didn't have much interest in the movie. But this is where it really showed that I actually believe this person. And I'm just going to read it. I'm just going to read it for you. One of the things that clicked me out of CG way thinking was checking out the JSA comics. I love the JSA and the Stargirl TV show, but that wasn't always the JSA in the comics. Dr. Midnight and Wildcat were white men, but in the newest JSA in the comics by Jeff Johns, the mantles were picked up by women of color, one being black and the other Latina, and that was no issue. The comics were well received. The show is spectacular. But today, let's talk about if that comic came out today. Regardless of the fact that it is written by Jeff Johns, I think most people would trust him. But if you didn't know who it was and those mantles were being replaced, there would be absolute outrage. There would be. And I actually talked about this in the comments yesterday in my top 5 video because I was willing to give Vita Ayala a chance. I know, really dumb. I get it. But I am a wait and see kind of person anymore. And I gave Trial of the Amazons a few issues, and I will not buy anything besides Static at this point from Vita Ayala because it is not something I personally enjoy. There may be people out there that do, but it's not for me. But for some reason, it became this sort of gotcha, like, ha, told you so. Well, that's okay. I've never had an issue admitting if I was wrong. But nobody at that point was outraged that the book was going to be bad. They were outraged that there was a possibility of a trans Amazonian. And it became a whole thing, right? It's not a gotcha. It's simply me wanting to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, and I won't anymore with Vita. And I learned my lesson, right? Now, this continues. But what if that happened today? The all-white male JSA existing today as only JSA, then next month, they announced they were about to reboot the JSA the exact same way they did, but actually bad writing. And this new version happened to be more diverse. The Comicsgate fandom menace would go all over it with hatred, despite it being a good, content. I said that wrong, not bad writing, without the bad writing. Diversity would be the very thing that clicks people out for some reason, which in and of itself could be problematic. So that's why I think the instance of some channels of the DCEU, the DC, calling it the DCU, and Batgirl and Supergirl being main leads, being annoyed that Batman and Superman are gone, fine. That's obviously logical. I think a lot of us can agree with that. But focusing on the fact that they're women as the main issue rather than it being a lesser popular character to the general public, it does not feel like it's the right way to go. And I 100% agree with it. I think it is very silly that they have Christina Hobson on that movie. That worries me a lot. I saw Birds of Prey. It's fun. It's not great writing. It's silly. I love Harley Quinn and I love the girls, but that's not Cassandra Cain. They are completely different characters. My main issue is Christina Hobson, not any sort of diversity. And I think we're at a point where it is online extremely problematic for any sort of change. And I talk about censorship and how I'm anti-censorship, but what does this outrage do? It prevents good storytelling on both sides. You're wanting a bunch of representation, no white straight men. You're censoring that initial artist. You don't want any diversity. Again, you're censoring that main artist. And that's not where we should be focusing. Long ago, talking back to Jeff Johns, there wasn't that idea of having to please the right type of people. And people act like Jeff Johns never took a stab at the fans. Well, he has. Superboy Prime is literally an entitled fanboy. He was created off of the idea of something like the Culture Warriors. Yeah, that's what Superboy Prime is. And Jeff Johns wrote him that way. So yeah, he has taken a stab at those type of fans, but in a less dramatic way. The problem with all this, and kind of getting a couple different opinions around, again, I'm not going to say who they are, but more, heading a little bit local, heading a little bit international, heading a little bit multi-state crossing, talking to a few different people. There's no issue. Most people don't give a shit. Actually, quite the opposite. Most people look at both extremes as ridiculous. Ridiculous to a huge degree. Most people think when they find, some sort of video outrage that Leslie Grace is Batgirl, they generally think, yeah, who cares? As long as the story is good, as long as the storytelling is good. And a lot of times, the only time when people really even give a shit is when there is some sort of origin really heavily in the comics, with Magneto or Black Panther. Those are characters that wouldn't make sense to race swap, right? So most people, general people, normies, I am talking here, normal consumers of Batman, normal comic book readers, ones that don't pay attention to Fandom Menace, CG, the woke brigade, bread tube. They think it's all ridiculous. They're just consumers. They buy what they like. They enjoy it. And if they don't like something, they don't buy it again. That is the general consensus I can come up with outside of the interwebs. I'm officially old. I said interwebs. The internet, right? Most people just want to be entertained. And if that's happening, whether it is Batgirl or Batman, it doesn't matter. Now, of course, an IP like Batman is going to sell better. It is a much more popular character. And that is also, obviously, why they piggyback off of a known IP when it comes to character like race swapping, like Jace Fox, right? They create it and it's a legacy, it's a mantle. We can call it whatever you like, but it happens all the time. Most people don't think that the world is trying to change your kids into being gay. Most people don't think that the world is trying to change your kids into being alt-right, even though we've seen that narrative on both sides of the field, right? Like I literally, in my recommendations yesterday, I am not kidding you. So I was laughing because I had nothing to listen to. And I wanted something in my ear. So there was a video by It's a Gundam, I want to say. I think that's the right name. Reacting to libs on TikTok. And then Sirius reacting to conservative TikTokers. I was like, I can't take it. I can't take it. I get it. Both sides of the extreme are cringy. But when you're representing that side by showing the cringy, of course people are going to think the worst of it, right? Most people are just normal. And I think that's why I appreciated this email so much, because speaking out against some of this stuff it's showing. It is proof in the pudding in this email. And that's kind of why, I don't know, it's a weird, proud moment, right? It's a weird, proud moment when somebody realizes it because of a simple conversation you had with them, right? And I like it. And even going back to the point where talking about going back to the email, it's a grift. Yeah, for instance, when I call it a grift sometimes too, but you always got to go back to don't hate the player, hate the game, right? Yeah, okay, we get it. You're doing this for money. Everybody is. We live in a capitalist society. End of story. It's not an insult. For instance, the Phase 4 of the MCU, Nerd Roddick called it the MCU. Every single review he makes, other than No Way Home. And even though he says he has a vast comic book knowledge, in his WandaVision review, he said Wanda is not supposed to be the most powerful or more powerful than Doctor Strange, even though she literally is. Like, I'm not a huge Marvel person. I'm a more of an avid DC reader, but I even know that, right? Like, Wanda is what would they say? The bestest ever. Okay, yeah. Cringe. I'm gonna die when I hear this video in editing. But yes, like it's normal. Like, this is a point where you gotta look at stuff, and instead of it being a grift, I'm almost to the point where I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's kind of getting to the point where you're censoring people. And you wonder why comics are bad? Or in your opinion, subjectively bad? It's because they're having to censor it for everything. They're not allowed to have a new character gay because somebody will get mad. And then somebody will get mad because they're gay and not bi, and there's not enough bi representation. Like, the whole world at this point is afraid to make a joke because they'll offend somebody. But they weren't afraid of that 20 years ago. Like, is there ever a way to get back to that point where we can actually speak out and be funny and be goofy and not have to worry about offending the wrong people? Like, I asked about a shade when I was doing a review with Robert Willing on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm not a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, right? And I did it for his birthday. I'm not a person that watches Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or even really read, So I asked about Shredder's ethnicity because he looked white. And then I get, oh my God, they're whitewashing this comic. Are you kidding me? In my chat. No, that's not what I meant. Do you understand how this outrage censors every single one of us? Every single one of us. And it's fucked up. And it's not fair to, not me, because I can talk about it on here. Because if I lose subs, oh well, I'm used to it at this point, right? But you're censoring everybody because they're afraid to offend not just the left. They're not just doing stuff for Twitter likes. Unfortunately, I hate to break it to you. When you see new superheroes that are star-spangled bannered or patriotica, that is not a virtue signal to the left. That is one to the right or a thin blue line. That is not a virtue signal to the left. It is to the right. When you see John Kent, you know which way it's going. It's going to the left. But I'm just saying, quit acting like it's only one way. And honestly, quit buying stuff you don't like. You want the market to actually decide? Let it decide. Quit watching things because you hate it. That's so weird to me, right? That's so weird to me, but I've done it 100 times. And it's stupid. And I know it's stupid in my head. But I'm making sure every single week I support what I like. And I don't buy stuff like Teen Titans Academy or Naomi. Don't watch it because the first issue was our episode was also awful. And then anything from Vita Ayala at this point. But the market will decide. We live in a capitalistic society. The only way forward is to go with your wallets and stop. It's like when someone says, quit feeding the trolls, right? Just quit answering them. They'll go away. Quit buying stuff. It'll go away. I don't know. 5 years ago, every video was about Magdalene Visaggio. Everyone was mad at her, right? You see how much work she gets now? None, right? Okay, thought so. Same will be in a couple years for Vita Ayala. Let the market decide. God bless it. But anyways, I know this is getting extremely long and I apologize for the length. I usually don't try to make them this long, but it's frustrating because I truly want what's best for an industry that I've loved for a very long time. But people throw around this word censorship like they know what it means. Like blocking you from my channel is not censorship. You getting blocked on Twitter or getting banned on Twitter, that's not censorship. That's a private corporation. Corporations are the fundamental foundation of capitalist society. I don't understand how it goes over people's head. Like, I don't know. The only thing you're doing with this outrage marketing is giving people higher sales, higher numbers, giving them more money in their pocket. And really at this point, you're censoring everything, because everybody is afraid to say anything because everybody's going to be mad no matter what. Like, I get it. One thing here, one thing there. That's fine. But it is always constant and nonstop. And a lot of time it is hyperbole and lies or worse, it's frustrating at a point. And this has gotten entirely too long. So I apologize. But anyways, thanks for listening to my rant. And again, I do appreciate the email that makes me have a little bit more hope in humanity. It's nice to see, right? I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
I'm more than just a picture. I'm a dog.